Hi, welcome to the channel, Budget Audio Review and Upgrades. And I do like throwing a few, maybe I don't know if it's fun things, but a few different things in the mix, so to speak. So it can be a bit varied. Some, some things people are not interested at all. I've got hardly any hits on. Then something I put up, I think I'm not going to get many hits on. All of a sudden I'll get quite a few. So it's just the way it goes. So a little bit experimental, so please bear with me. But a bit of fun here really, like I say. Got 3 sets of speakers here. And these are low budget end speakers, like you're gonna, when they come out there's pretty cheap, and when you go on eBay now you're gonna get any one of these pretty cheap as well. So I thought we'd have a look inside, see exactly how they were made, kind of thing, what goes in them, how they were put together, how much foam's in, been used, etc., what kind of crossover. So I've got 3 sets here, and I thought this would be a good little video because, like I say, these are cheap speakers, and as the channel progresses over the years, hopefully I'll start upping my game and paying out a little bit more, etc. So I'll be getting some smaller bookshelves like this, but it costs 2 or 3 times as much maybe back then and back now or whatever. And we'll have a look how they're made as well, see if we can get any comparisons to what you're getting for your money. Obviously the drivers and that will be more expensive in a more upmarket and a more expensive speaker, but we can still look at the construction, etc. See what's going into it, and just something a little bit of fun really. As you know, I don't post any speakers out, even small ones, because they get damaged quite easy in the post. If you are sending speakers, make sure you double or treble box them, plenty of bubble wrap, foam, etc. This is another speaker I got recently. They're lucky enough it didn't cost a lot of money, but it come there with a big chunk taken out of it, and when the bloke sent me the pictures on eBay, etc., that wasn't there. This ain't the first time, this has happened quite a few times with speakers, non-delivery, etc., all different things I've had with speakers. So be careful if you are sending them. Really, maybe try and do collection. Obviously you get maybe a lot less on collection, but if you are posting, make sure they're well wrapped, because they do throw them about, trust me. Okay, so yeah, I thought I'd take these 3 apart. We're going to start off, well, let me tell you what they are first. Well, this is the Wharfedale Delta 70, so this is a Wharfedale speaker. This is a Mordaunt Short 25 Ti speaker, and this end one, this is a Celestion 3 speaker. So we're going to take them all apart, have a look, see what kind of differences are between the 3. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't think there's going to be a great bit of difference between the 3, to be honest with you, how they're actually constructed, but we'll soon find out when we take them apart. So we're going to start off with this Mordaunt Short 25. So we're going to start off with this actual bass driver. Now this actually uses a bolt rather than a screw, so this is in there nice and tight, and you can do this up as tight as you like on this. This is an enclosed speaker. If you want to see a review of this speaker, by the way, I'll put a link at the top, and you can go to my review of this particular speaker. So anyway, the bass driver's coming out. Now this is a 7.5 inch paper cone bass unit. It's got a rubber seal around it. Always check these seals, make sure no glues come undone around the seals. You'll probably hear some like farting sounds if that's the case. So just go around there lightly with your finger, look around there with your eyes, and it should be all nicely stuck down. Now if just a little bit's come off, you can probably prise underneath it, get a little bit of glue, so nothing too much to worry about. But obviously if it all comes off, you're going to have to align it up, and it's not going to be that easy. So let's take this out. As you can see, this is quite tightly in there. It actually makes indentations around the speaker. That's how actually tight it goes. And as we turn it over, just be careful with the cone. You'll see the markings there. The positive is this one here, and the negative is this one here. So if you ever did want to put it back together, it's fairly straightforward. Now these can be on there quite tight. They kind of like push these on and get them quite tight. So you have to actually give this quite a bit of force holding on. So I've got the camera. I don't want to ping the camera off this tripod, but there you go. So holding on to the actual speaker there, because you don't want them snapping, because if you look there, hopefully that shows you've got 2 quite thin wires. You don't want to start tugging them and pulling them off, because they actually go, hopefully you can see that somewhere along the line, they actually go into the cone there. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but you may get a bit of an idea. So you don't want to start ripping them about. So that's your bass mid-range driver. We'll take the tweeter out now. This is just normal screws to tweeter. Quite a fair length to them, so they're in there nice and tight. So that's the tweeter. Now usually you can put your hand underneath and actually push this out. It's probably the easiest way to get it out. And you will find, well, you may find that it's been here so long, some of these tweeters, and they're quite tightly in there, they actually start, as you take it out, it's actually cracked this surrounding. So just something to be a bit wary of maybe. And if you resell it or whatever, you buy one on eBay, you may just have to put it back in there with this kind of glued or just really near it, and the screw will hold it back in position anyway. But it's just the way it is. It's, you know, they're in there so tight, and the plastic starts to deteriorate a little bit, and thus a couple of bits fall off. It's just one of those things. Again, we turn this over, and if you look very carefully, you will see a plus and minus actually on the, I probably can't see it there, but actually embedded in the plastic there for the wires, and the plus here also here, an indication that this brown wire is the plus. So again, just be a bit careful. Take that off there. It's obviously quite tight, and take that off there, and that's the tweeter removed. Okay, so that's that removed. Now what we're going to do is actually remove and see how much wadding we got in here, and as you can see there, there's one quite big bit there of wadding with the hole for the wires to go through in the middle. We've actually got a second bit in here as well, and pull them wires and actually go through there. So there's a second quite big bit of wadding, and we've got a third bit in the tweeter department. So we'll take that out as well. That's got no holes. Well, it has got holes, so they use the same bit, but obviously just, you know, bundle that up in there for the tweeter. But that's kind of universal. They obviously order this with the cutting, and it goes pretty much anywhere in the speaker enclosure. So the next thing, we've got the crossover inside. So if I just hopefully tilt that up towards you, hopefully you can see that. We're just going to have to undo 4 screws to get that crossover out. So we'll do that just to see what crossover looks like. I will give you a little tip once I take this crossover out. If you did want to undo your speakers, you know, not to take completely apart, but just to tighten up the crossover. I'll show you what I mean when I get this one out. It doesn't happen on all of them all the time, but let me just give you a little tip here just to tighten this crossover up. I'll show you what I mean once I get him out. So just hang about a little bit. I'll get this out, and hopefully just show you something you can do. I mean, this is for people like doing all the screws, all the connections up nice and tight. I know there's a lot of them about, and there's nothing wrong in that at all. Obviously, the tighter and better it is, you know, the tighter and the more friction you got, the better. But these nuts here on this particular crossover here, they go through. Then as you put in the speakers, you know, the banana plugs in and out of this. These nuts here do start to loosen a little bit, as you can see there, and you may just want to give that a tighten up by hand, or get a bit of pliers around them or something. But I'll be honest with you, this one was tight, but the other one I took out, the other speaker wasn't. It was on the loose side. So to get a nice firm connection, I just put a pair of pliers and tighten that nut up there, just to make sure it's given a good connection, because that nut moves up and down that spindle. So just something to bear in mind there. So there's the crossover, the Mordaunt short crossover in this particular speaker, and as you can see, it's got quite a bit to it. I mean, some of these crossovers ain't got a lot. Some have just got one resistor, one capacitor, but we've got and one coil, should I say. On here we've got a few little capacitors here, a couple of resistors, 2 more capacitors there, and 3 inductors. And I think they've actually got some kind of circuit protection on this one, where one of the resistors, I think, I'm not too sure if it's a resistor or the one of the coil spinners, kind of like goes open circuit to protect it. I'll have to look into that actually at a later date. But anyway, that's the crossover in this particular speaker. So we put that aside. And if we have a look inside, someone did ask me when I reviewed these speakers how well these were braced, if they had any bracing, and hopefully this can show you the bracing here goes right round just underneath the tweeter. We've got a bracing of about, well, probably 1.5 inches by 1/2 inch thick of MDF all the way round, bracing that middle, that top section, shall I say there. And this is quite a sturdy, as you can see, probably 1/2 inch, maybe just a little bit more thick MDF, and quite a solid and quite heavy unit. Looks quietly well made, so to speak. And at the bottom there's some fixings there for fixing on this. So this is the Wharfedale Delta 70. So we're going to take this apart exactly the same. We'll take here and the telltale sign of it all actually cutting into the front there. Again, just take notice of the actual markings if you want to put this back together, the positive and negative of the speaker, because you want to get that right next time you actually come to use the speaker. And as you can see, there's an X there. Hopefully you can see that little X there on the side of the speaker to let you know where the positive goes red wire being the positive. So then again, holding the speaker, that little connection there tightly, wiggle this and that'll come undone. We'll do exactly the same with the other side, holding on to the fixing of the speakers, so that actually moves around as well. So just hold on to it fairly tight as you wiggle that, and eventually that comes off. So that's that speaker taken out. Feels a little bit lighter than the Mordaunt short one. So we'll wander onto the tweeter, and there you go, that's the tweeter. Then from underneath just push it out, and as you see you've got the gasket there, holding it in there nice and tight. And we've got some markings here, negative, and yeah, it's just a negative there by the looks of it. I can't actually see the positive on here. We're looking for any other markings, but just remember that the yellow was on the negative, and then again holding that fixing, wiggle it about. Well, actually the yellow's on the positive is actually, I thought that was a negative there, but no, we can't really see that properly, to be honest with you. But no, we've got a red mark there, so that will be where the positive goes, and that is yellow. So the red mark is yellow on this speaker, so just look out for markings. I thought that's it. I think no, that's just a normal mark there. I thought it actually said a negative, but it doesn't. It's a little red mark there for the positive, which is yellow. So we'll put that there. Then we've got some this foam here, it's like foam that you're having your settee, that kind of foam. It's quite a thick foam. It's like foam, like I say, you probably put a cushion on. Where if we go back to the Mordaunt short one, this is like a woolly kind of, like you have this in a quilt kind of thing, this wadding, really nice and fluffy, this wadding. Where on the Mordaunt short, like I say, we've gone back to this foam wadding, so just something to think about. I don't know, maybe that's the way they did it. Well, obviously this is the way they did it, but just a different way of using foam or rather than wadding. And this actually goes all the way around the speaker. We had one at the back. We're going to take it all the way out just to show you what's in there. That would have went round like that, and we've got another piece doing exactly the same. Take this out. So that actually, so there you go, that padding would go around, and you're not probably going to get it, it's going to cover the camera, but it goes all the way around the outside. And we've got the one that went down in the middle. Now this crossover is a little bit more involved getting out, because you're going to have to take well, actually I can take the back plate off. Let's just disconnect that, just to take this crossover out for you, so you can have a little look at this. So that's the crossover now coming out, one screw holding it in there. So if we look at that crossover, it looks quite a chunkier and bigger coil here, a smaller coil there, choke, whatever you want to call it. One capacitor there, another capacitor there, and a resistor there, and that's pretty much the crossover shown there. I've just got one more bit to take out here actually, is this back plate where the other one come out with the crossover. This one is separate, so we'll just take this out. Dealt with 70, so we'll take that, and it's just the connections that goes to the crossover there, and they obviously positive, negative there, nothing. Oh, it's actually labelled up in there as well, in case you couldn't see which colour was what. But anyway, let's move that right out of the way. We'll have a little bit look at the quality of this speaker compared with the other one. It's pretty much the same, to be honest with you. Thickness wise, it's pretty much the same thickness. The weight of it is, obviously it's a bit bigger, and it feels near enough the same, to be honest with you. Just a tad heavier maybe, but not a lot. Maybe because the other one felt a bit heavier because it had that bracing, where this one, hopefully you can see in there some angles here I'm getting in this bad light, literally, and the hand in the way. But there's no bracing in there, it's just a complete front, no extra bracing at all anywhere in the speaker. Okay, this is the Celestion free speaker. Now before I go on, there's a subscriber to my channel called Ditton Works, and I'll put a link down below in the comment section, or the description shall I say, to his channel. You may want to check him out. He used to work for Ditton, and he used to put a lot of these speakers together, so you're going to know a lot more about these speakers than me, so check that out. But I've cheated a bit here, already undone some of the screws. Now these, you need an Allen key, so slightly different from the others. They use an Allen key. Like I say, I've undone them. I don't think you've got to watch me undoing screws forever. I should have thought about that on the other couple of speakers actually. These are screws. There's no bolts or anything like that, no bolt fixing. These are screws into the wood. So we just finished these off. In fact, I could have undone them a bit more. But anyway, just bear with me and we'll get inside this little speaker. There you go, so I'll stick that there. Okay, we're going to try and take this bass driver out without bucking up. Actually, you do really, I mean, I've done it this way, but this actual little clip here actually holds it in as well. It's got a little ridge that holds this like that, just goes over it and holds that bass in as well. So you may want to take that off. I did forget about that, but we stuck it there for the time being. So okay, so as we whip this out, one thing you notice straight away, these wires are quite thin compared to the other wires. These are quite thin wires. And going by that marking there, the positive, you know, the red marking there, the positive will be the bottom one, which is yellow, and the blue there, I should imagine, is a negative of the actual speaker. And if we can see any markings on that to confirm it, yes, there you go, positive. You probably can't see it, but there is a positive marking in the plastic there, and there's that Celestion speaker there. So we'll take that out. With a tweeter, we're just going to push it from underneath as normal. This is quite an heavy tweeter. The first thing you notice about this is the weight compared with the other two I've just taken out. This is quite chunky. I mean, you could be mistaken. This is actually a driver. It's that heavy. It's quite heavy. Then again, we're going to look again, see if we can see any markings here for the positive. We've got the red dot there, so we know the red wire goes to that. And we're going to be a little bit careful here, because that, I'm going to flick it over actually. Hold the fixing while we pull the wire. And the same on the other side, because we don't want to snap that off. And that's, like I say, I'm quite surprised how heavy that is. So I don't know if I actually caught that on my reviews. By the way, I've been putting up some, hopefully you're catching them, some links to the reviews of these speakers. As we take this out, one thing you're going to notice here, it's got just one piece of this foam, and just be careful as you took this foam out. Actually, I've noticed on there that the kind of rougher side is actually this side of the speaker, where the softer side is actually touching the wood. But just the one piece they use here, so that's obviously that's sufficient enough. We're going to flick it over and take this back off so we can see the actual crossover. And I've undone the screws as well, just to get this crossover, because you don't want to see me undo 4 screws. And we'll take them out. We'll pull the crossover out. You'll notice the coils, chokes, whatever you want to call them, are stuck on the back. We've got a capacitor and resistor, and like I say, always check these nuts. These are nice and tight, because they do come undone, they do come loose. People moving, you know, turning this in and out and moving plugs in and out, banana plugs over years, depending on how often they've been used, obviously, and whatever. These can come loose depending on how tight they were done up at the factory. But these two, by hand, they seem, well, actually that one turned just a little bit there, hardly anything, but there's a little bit of a turn. But you may want to get a pair of pliers or something in there and give them a, no, don't go mad and snap this casing, anything like that, but just do it quite firm. Obviously that give you a good solid connection. Just something to bear in mind with these, they've got nuts on the back, something to look out for maybe, just to give a good solid connection. So that's the Celestion 3 speaker taken apart, and we'll just finalise everything, I think. Okay, maybe my final thoughts now then of the 3 speakers I took apart. But before I do that, I just want to come back to this Celestion 3. I didn't tell you how this was actually made. You know, the thickness, it's just a little bit thinner. It's about 3mm thinner, the actual MDF they use here, than they use in this Mordaunt Short and the Wharfedale. But don't forget, this is a smaller speaker, no internal bracing, but probably to be expected again. It is a lot smaller than these other 2 speakers, but nicely made. And you know, if I had to put them in order, you know, how they were made, I'd probably go 1 with this. This is probably made just a little bit better than this Mordaunt Short, even though this has got nice internal bracing. It's a solid speaker, but just the overall finish was just a little bit better, I thought, on this Celestion. This comes second, and I think the Wharfedale third. Now, my final thoughts, well, they're, am I going to put all this back together, where all these bits go? But yeah, I don't know where they go, so I'm going to have to put all these back together at some stage. But yeah, my final thoughts, you know, it's hard to say really. Like I'm a little bit surprised that how heavy this tweeter was in the Celestion. This is, you know, it's quite an heavy tweeter. This when we compare this to the Mordaunt short tweeter, which is like second heaviest, and that's, you know, still a fairly heavy tweeter. And we go down to the Wharfedale, and this is quite a light tweeter compared, definitely, you know, weight this probably 3 or 4 times lighter than this tweeter here in the Celestion. Okay, yeah, no, just another thing about the wadding they used. I think the padding, wadding, whatever you want to call it. You know, if you probably remember, the Wharfedales had this kind of foam all the way round the sides and along the back. They used 3 bits of this foam, where this Celestion just uses one thin piece. It's not that thick. It's, you know, it's not over thick. It's okay. Just one piece which went along the top, back, and down the bottom. So just one piece. Obviously, a lot smaller speaker anyway. They used one piece in that speaker. Used quite thin wires on the crossover. Maybe, you know, just another thing I noticed with this speaker compared with the other two, where the Mordaunt short and the Wharfedale used a lot thicker wiring on the actual crossover, and a lot more padding, and fluffy, lovely padding. You'd like to make a pillowcase, maybe out, or pillar, should I say, won't make a pillowcase, but a pillar out of this in this speaker here. Quite nice, fluffy, and quite a lot of it in the Mordaunt short. So yeah, that's it really. You know, it's just a bit of fun really, just to show you what's inside these speakers, what you get for your money. So you know, I hope you enjoyed it. Any comments about bits used and why they use them, etc., is welcome in the comments section down below. Like I say, head over to Did Some Works, and if you've got his name there, I'll put a link in the description. He knows a lot more about these Celestion speakers and does a lot of reviews on, you know, slightly higher price speakers than I'm using at the moment, and also Stereo Review X is another channel to watch out for. So anyway, to the next video, I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.